A suspect accused of raping 3 people at gunpoint in Towson, but could it have been prevented? Fox 45 News digs deeper into the suspect's criminal past and questions county leaders over safety concerns. A 16-year-old murder.
It was 5 shots that was let off, and you can tell that he wasn't breathing after that.
New today, a neighbor who saw what happened firsthand speaks out. Then Fox 45 News continues to demand answers over transparency in the Safe Streets program.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
We are following breaking news first at 4 out of Owings Mills, where police have found human remains. The investigation is happening steps away from Stevenson University. The remains were found yesterday, but the police department just notified us. Right now, authorities have not identified the person. If you have any information, though, you are asked to call police.
More breaking news right now. Baltimore City reaches an agreement with BGE over the city's 700-mile underground conduit system. The mayor's office says under the agreement, BGE must commit to more than $130 million toward improvements, but will earn blanket and expedited permitting for its underground work. Now, the city retains full ownership, but some council members want an investigation to determine who stands to benefit most. Fox 45's Jeff Abel will have much more in a live report in our next hour.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Mary Bubala.
I'm Kai Jackson. We are learning more tonight about the suspect arrested for allegedly raping 3 people at gunpoint in Towson last week.
It is a crime that shocked the community and leaves many questioning why the suspect was on the streets of Baltimore County.
Fox 45's Maxine Stryker joins us live in Towson with new information. Maxine, what are you learning?
Okay, we have been digging deeper into Quincy Davis's criminal history, and we're asking why he only spent just a few days behind bars after he was arrested with a stolen handgun from Baltimore City. This is the man, 28-year-old Quincy Davis, who police say raped 3 victims in the heart of Towson Thursday.
This is a heinous crime. It's atrocious. As a father, I'm disgusted by what happened.
Police say Davis ordered them onto their knees in an alley and threatened to kill them before raping all 3 of them at gunpoint. Police say Davis was prohibited from even being able to possess a firearm after he was arrested in 2021 in Anne Arundel County. According to the police report, Davis was pulled over for speeding when police found he had an active warrant in Baltimore City for driving on a suspended license and arrested him. Police discovered a gun in his pocket and another loaded gun in his passenger seat, which they found was stolen from Baltimore City, where court documents say Davis currently resides. Davis was sentenced to 3 years with all but just 10 days suspended, putting him back out on the streets in less than 2 weeks. The Anne Arundel County State's Attorney's Office why he was given a sentence of 10 days and if it was fair. A spokesperson tells us in part the sentencing guidelines recommended somewhere between straight probation, no jail time, to 2 years in prison. The state was asking for a number of years in prison with all but 30 days suspended. Ultimately, it was up to Judge Michael Wachs, who handed down the 10-day sentence.
If you commit a crime in Baltimore County, in Towson, or anywhere, we're going to find you, we're going to arrest you, and we're going to hold you fully accountable in partnership with State's Attorney Schellenberger.
Baltimore County Executive Johnny Olszewski says Davis will be held accountable, but we asked how he can assure residents feel safe after several incidents in Towson in recent months, including the January arrest of several juveniles after a disturbance near the Towson Circle. Olszewski says residents shouldn't worry.
I think it also presents a false narrative about the safety of Towson and Baltimore County. Looking at our crime statistics, crime has been persistently flat or down in most cases. That's true also in Towson. So we want to remind folks that Towson and all of Baltimore County is a very safe place to live, work, and raise a family.
Meanwhile, in Annapolis, lawmakers are working to make sure those who commit crimes like Davis allegedly did are held accountable. Ivan Bates is pushing legislation to even the sentence maximum for misdemeanor gun offenses to 5 years for all offenders 18 and over. But it would still be up to the judges to hand down those sentences. And Republican lawmakers are also planning legislation targeting repeat violent offenders. It's likely the proposal will look similar to what former Governor Larry Hogan pushed for years with the Violent Firearms Offender Act. Governor Wes Moore is now pledging to get the work done.
The ability to get and keep violent offenders off of our streets, the ability to get and keep these illegal guns out of our neighborhoods is something that has to be done cooperatively.
Well, Davis is being held without bond. A preliminary hearing is set for March 3rd here in Towson. Reporting live in Towson, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Maxine. Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates is working with lawmakers in Annapolis to crack down on crime. In his first legislative move, he's asking lawmakers, or requesting the lawmakers, to make the maximum penalty for misdemeanor gun offenses consistent. Mackenzie Frost questioned him on what happens in the courtroom.
In 2016, you had the Justice Reinvestment Act. And what that said was that if you're convicted of a misdemeanor, which where, carry, and transport a handgun is, that you only serve 25% of your time. So my clients, as a defense attorney, knew that's 8 months. That's time served. So they were never, ever intimidated, afraid, or deterred from carrying a handgun. But the magic number that everybody seemed to be afraid of was 5. Because 5 years means you're going to the Division of Correction. Now, you're not going to go for a long time, but you're going to go long enough that you're going to understand what it's like to be in the Division of Correction.
But will it help if judges aren't giving those sentences, or aren't delivering or handing down the 5-year sentences for these offenders?
Well, that's what we have to focus on next. We have to win those cases, and then we ask the judges for those sentences.
Well, you can watch the exclusive interview right now at foxbaltimore.com.
For months now, Fox 45 News has been demanding accountability and answers as we see more young people become either victims or suspects of crime. Just yesterday, 5 teens in Annapolis were arrested in a traffic stop for having these guns and drugs. Police say the teens led them on a pursuit before their arrest. It is the same county law enforcement released 7 pages worth of crimes they say were committed by children 13 and under. And because of recent changes to state law, no charges were brought in those cases. And the situation is dire in Baltimore City. This year alone, at least 15 young people have been shot, 4 of them killed. Rebecca Pryor's live with what we're learning about the most recent teenager killed. He was a 16-year-old boy killed in Northeast Baltimore on Sunday. Rebecca?
Yeah, Mary, as you said, this is just the latest in a string of young lives that have been lost on the streets of Baltimore City so far this year. Tonight, I'm speaking with a woman who says she heard the gunshots and then watched as a 16-year-old Andre Marino took his final breath at her feet. She asked we not show her face, but says when she found his body, Marino was covered in blood and barely clinging to life.
And you can tell that he wasn't breathing after that. He was walking home. He was a nice boy. He didn't bother nobody. He didn't say nothing to nobody. I don't understand what happened, really.
Baltimore City Schools has also confirmed Marino was a student at Edmondson Westside High. It's the same school where 5 others were shot just blocks from campus last month. Among them, 16-year-old Deontay Dorsey also losing his life. Now, coming up tonight at 5, I'll have more on the community's concerns and calls for change as at least 4 juveniles lose their lives to gun violence so far this year. Reporting live in Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
In a couple of hours, President Biden will take that traditional trip from the White House to the U.S. Capitol to deliver what is essentially a report card on how the country's doing. He is certain to tout some successes like low unemployment, but he is also facing some big hurdles. Sinclair's chief political correspondent, Scott Thuman, is live with both sides of what to expect. Scott?
Good evening to you, Kai and Mary. First, let's start with victory laps. We're going to get some from the president because he's going to tout those record low unemployment figures you just mentioned, as well as high job growth. But he's also addressing a nation that is still having a very difficult time financially, seeing a worsening immigration situation at the southern border, and just this past week faced some new challenges from overseas.
It's in this very institution that President Biden had notable successes, historic investments in infrastructure, healthcare, and climate. But convincing this body now, and America at large, he's on the right path has gotten trickier because there's a contradiction to what he said this time last year.
We are stronger today than we were a year ago, and we'll be stronger a year from now.
Long-ranging polls indicate a worrisome trend, a consistent downward slide among those who feel the state of the union is strong. from 55% back in 2018 to just 39% now. His team highlighting record job growth, yet also asking for patience, explaining results take time to show.
You know, just 6 months ago, there was a lot of hand-wringing and a lot of alarm, poll numbers, all kinds of things, having people question the course of the president, only for there to be midterm election results that I think really validated a lot of the approach that he's taken.
Biden will be looking for common ground in a House now under Republican control, so he'll highlight bipartisan goals like improving mental health, meeting veterans' needs, and stopping the spread of fentanyl. But Republicans say a perceived lack of teeth in pushing back against China will also need addressing.
To me, that was more than a balloon. It was a message to America. Aggression.
Though ultimately they claim it's about people's wallet and is a struggle.
And that's why convince any detractors or critics not to stymie their work, let it play out. They believe the results will be there. By the way, Mary and Kai, also many people curious to see tonight if the president uses this speech to telegraph his next move. In other words, will it serve as a warm-up act before possibly declaring a re-election bid?
Scott, thank you. Scott Thuman reporting. The president will address Congress tonight at 9 o'clock. You can watch that live at foxbaltimore.com. Harford County Executive Bob Casserly will also deliver his State of the County address tonight. That's happening at 7 o'clock. You can also watch that live at foxbaltimore.com.
Transparency remains a big question surrounding the Safe Streets program. It is the mayor's flagship crime-fighting program.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live. So, Mackenzie, any updates on getting access to the names of employees involved with Safe Streets?
Mary and Kai, we still don't have that information. And as you said, all of these questions come as Mayor Brandon Scott continues to tout this as one of the flagship efforts when it comes to preventing gun violence on the streets of Baltimore. Door to door, we've been investigating the Safe Streets locations. After threatening legal action, the city of Baltimore handing over hundreds of pages detailing how the city spends money to run the program. The community-based organizations operate the day-to-day needs of Safe Streets, using tax dollars through grants to employ the workers. Their names redacted from the contracts we got. Safe Streets. Mayor Brandon Scott says keeping the information private is for safety. The workers seen in the community at events and at media events with the mayor, but the city keeping their names secret.
That's what makes it a difficult argument.
Former Deputy BPD Commissioner Jason Johnson says he recognizes the public safety concerns, but the workers, he says, should be in the neighborhoods anyway.
They're not supposed to be working in an undercover capacity. They are supposed to be known by their communities.
The public can look up the names of all city employees and their salaries, but not the employees of a program central to Mayor Scott's fight against crime.
I mean, I paid a lot in taxes last year as a private citizen, and you want to have that information. I think that's fair.
Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates says he too understands the need to keep some information private, but that shouldn't be a blanket reason to keep the public in the dark.
But, you know, I try to also stay in my lane. As I say I only can control what I can control in the state's attorney's office. But as a taxpayer, taxpayers, yeah, they want to know that information.
The work these violence interrupters are doing remains unclear as well. The city's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, or MONSE, often provides data on how many mediations have been completed. But what counts as a mediation hasn't really been explained.
The biggest thing you want to be able to do is track your progress.
Tuesday, Fox 45 News sent questions to Mayor Brandon Scott asking, why is there a system in place that appears to be designed to withhold information from the public? When will the city show how the funding is utilized for the Safe Streets program once the money is given to these nonprofits? The mayor and his team issuing a statement saying Safe Streets workers have not and are not employees of the city of Baltimore, adding in part, quote, MONSE provides strategic oversight and technical assistance to partner organizations who administer sites, employ the workforce, and uphold the responsibilities outlined in their contract terms with the city and in alignment with state funding requirements.
Regardless of who the mayor is over the last many decades, they haven't exactly built up a huge amount of goodwill and trust with the public.
About a program utilizing more than $3 million in funding. Now, if you have any tips or information you think we need to know about the Safe Streets program, send it to me directly at safestreetstips@gmail.com. Kai?
Mackenzie, the city just announced millions of dollars going to other nonprofits to help with trash pickup around the city. What can you tell us about how that money will be spent? And there's some controversy around it.
Yeah, it was announced yesterday about $15 million, almost $15 million through the Clean Core Initiative. Mayor Brandon Scott and outgoing DPW Director Jason Mitchell made the announcement yesterday saying that these 6 nonprofits will be getting this funding that's coming from the federal COVID, the American Rescue Plan allocation that the city received. The goal, according to these leaders, will be to utilize these nonprofits to get into some of these communities who continue to struggle with trash. We're seeing trash-lined streets. We were out there earlier today. The supporters say this is necessary given the agency's struggles when it comes to staffing and equipment. But it's another round of money going to more nonprofits, and we know sometimes that information is difficult to get from nonprofits when it comes to tracking that money. Critics of this new infusion say that DPW should be the agency getting the funding in the first place, since that is a city agency doing city services. We went out and talked to some people in the community, talked to the critics about this as well, and we'll take a deeper dive coming up at 5. But for now, we're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. State test scores become a difficult pill to swallow for Baltimore City. Our Project Baltimore team goes over the number of students not making the grade.
A shocking crash this morning sends a Baltimore County police officer to the hospital. How the officer's cruiser ended up upside down in the middle of the road.
The devastating aftermath of a powerful earthquake, how the U.S. plans to help Turkey and Syria.
And some unseasonable warmth coming our way the next couple of days before a weekend cool down. I'm going to let you know if that cool down over the weekend comes with any flakes in our forecast as well. And my Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 News, winner of 17 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Developing now, there's a race against time in Turkey and in Syria. You're looking at the devastation after a powerful earthquake, and it's as far as the eye can see. Right now, the death toll has climbed to more than 7,000 people. It's just powerful to even say that, and tragic.
It's just horrible.
And of course, that number could grow.
Oh, goodness. Well, there is a non-stop effort right now, as you can imagine, to try and rescue victims who are still alive and trapped. You're looking at dramatic moments. When a man was rescued this morning, thousands of first responders have been working feverishly, as you can imagine, to find any signs of life. The 7.8 magnitude quake toppled thousands of buildings. At least 65 countries, including the United States, are sending rescue workers and supplies. We told you last night about an elite team in Washington, D.C. going there. Baltimore County also has elite search and rescue teams. A Baltimore County police officer is hospitalized after a crash that flips the officer's cruiser.
It happened just before 6 in Towson at the intersection of Goucher Boulevard and Putty Hill Lane. Police say the cruiser and another car collided. The officer was taken to the hospital to be checked out. Those in the other car were not hurt.
The Baltimore County Council approves a plastic bag ban. There's also a fee for paper bags now. The vote happened last night. The ban requires most businesses to stop using plastic bags by early next year. It also imposes a 5-cent fee on paper bags. Other jurisdictions, including Baltimore City, have plastic bag bans.
We expect an update Friday in the upcoming federal trial of former City State's attorney Marilyn Mosby. We could learn new dates for the trial. Right now, Marilyn Mosby has been appointed a federal public defender after all 6 of her attorneys withdrew from the case. A year ago, federal prosecutors charged Mosby with perjury and making false statements on mortgage applications. It's related to her purchase of 2 vacation homes in Florida.
Super Bowl 57 is 5 days away.
That's right. Sunday's game is the first National Football League championship to be played in a state with a legalized sports betting. Fans inside State Farm Stadium can place mobile phone bets during the game. About 30 million Americans plan to make Super Bowl sports wagers online. That is up 66% from last year's Super Bowl. And you can watch Super Bowl 57 this Sunday, February 12th, right here on Fox 45. Coverage starts at 11 a.m. The Super Bowl pregame show begins at 1, then Super Bowl 57 kicks off at 6:30.
You're looking now at live pictures of Camden Yards, the home of the Baltimore Orioles. Spring training starts in a week and a half. Well, a handful of Orioles prospects are going through sessions right now through the 14th. That's right before pitchers and catchers report. Now, 5 of their top prospects in attendance, like outfielders Colton Cowser and Heston Jerstead. In 8 days, February 15th, pitchers and catchers report. They get to work the next day. Position players report February 20th. The first full squad workout will be the 21st. Now, the first spring game that following Saturday. So getting ready for the birds.
I know a lot of folks from here go down there to watch the birds, see how they're going to do. Hopefully, we will have a good season. Everything's lining up that we should.
The Grapefruit League, as they call it.
Yes, exactly. Beautiful sunshine down there.
Yeah. Baseball season already coming.
I know, it's great.
It's going to be warm soon. And actually, it's been warm, right? And even warmer this week. Temperatures in the 60s. I like what I'm seeing here in the forecast. Well, hopefully you do too, unless you're a snow lover, and that don't look so good. But 45 degrees, mostly cloudy skies right now. Winds the east and southeast at 8 miles an hour. Humidity 58%, and a little bit of a wind chill at 41 degrees. A little haze there on the Mile 1 Towson. We've had some extra clouds today. And some winds out of the east and southeast off the cool waters of the Chesapeake Bay as well as the Atlantic. Keep our temperatures kind of locked in the 40s for the most part. So a little bit cooler than what we had yesterday, and actually even a little bit cooler than forecast. Temperatures are running about 4 to 8 degrees cooler than they were 24 hours ago here in Baltimore. But you get out to the west, look at those warmer numbers. That is what is coming the next couple of days after today. HT radar, not a whole lot of rain. There are actually a couple of sprinkles way up there in southern PA and then more towards St. Louis, Wichita. Some of that rain is going to move toward us overnight tonight as a cold front gradually shifts eastbound. It's going to take its time, so temperatures are going to warm ahead of this. Look at the 40s here, but 50s, 60s down to our south and west. Let's plan this out overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning. A couple of sprinkles here and there, especially north and east of Baltimore. Temperatures settling down not too far, not too fast, back down generally into the 40s. And then for tomorrow afternoon, how about temperatures well into the 50s, maybe even 60 degrees. We'll go 59. Partial sun returns, some PM showers as that front begins to move in on Thursday. Into Friday, maybe a couple more showers. That may keep our temperatures tamped down to near 60, which is still about 15 degrees above average. A spot leftover shower on Saturday. Looked like there could be some snow in there Saturday into Sunday. Now it's kind of holding back once again to more so shower. So again, it's something we'll watch. 48, 49 Sunday, and then 50s once again above average into early next week.
Jonathan, thanks. Our Project Baltimore team analyzed state test scores, the shocking information they find out about proficiency levels in city schools. Anne Arundel County is in the planning phase of redistricting its schools, the promises County Executive Stuart Pittman is making. Taking a look now at the Quad box, more attacks today from Russia ahead of the one-year mark of the war in Ukraine. Military analysts say Russia might be planning to retake Ukrainian regions they previously seized. The Navy continues to recover debris from the downed Chinese spy balloon. Crews are searching an area the size of 15 football fields off the coast of South Carolina. Crews in Ohio have successfully released toxic chemicals from a train that derailed Friday. The release sent a large plume of black smoke into the air in East Palestine. Anybody within a 1-mile radius has been advised to evacuate. And the House Oversight Committee is holding a hearing on the crisis at the border. Maryland Congressman Jamie Raskin is on the board. He is urging Congress to pass immigration reform. He's on that panel. Be the first to know about breaking news by signing up for News on the Go. Go to foxbaltimore.com, click on Mobile Alert Sign Up under the Station tab. President Biden set to deliver his State of the Union address tonight, but how do people in our region feel about his policies? The FDA has issued a recall featuring more than 400 products. What's recalled that you need to look out for? And information uncovered about proficiency levels in Baltimore City schools. Our Project Baltimore team has that story. Baltimore City facing a devastating reality as the latest round of state test scores is released.
Our Project Baltimore team analyzed the results, and as Chris Papps reports, there's a shocking number of city schools where not a single student is doing math at grade level.
I see the brightness of Baltimore kids.
It's now been more than a year.
We're not living up to our potential.
Since Giovanni Patterson made national headlines by suing Baltimore City schools for failing to properly educate generations of students.
We, the taxpayer, are funding our own demise.
Patterson was born here. He has seen the failures firsthand. But what Project Baltimore just told him at first rendered him speechless.
My immediate reaction is take your kids out of these schools.
The Maryland State Department of Education has released the 2022 state test results, known as MCAP, Maryland Comprehensive Assessment Program. Baltimore City's math scores were the lowest in the state. Just 7% of 3rd through 8th graders tested proficient in math. That means 93% could not do math at grade level. But that's not all we found. Project Baltimore combed through scores at all 150 city schools where the state math test was given. We found in 23 Baltimore City schools, there were 0 students who tested proficient in math. Not a single student.
Is this why you filed your lawsuit, because of outcomes like this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It just sounds like these schools now have turned into essentially babysitters with no accountability. This is the future of our city. Like we got to change this.
Among the list of 23 schools, here's how the numbers break down. 10 of them are high schools. 8 are elementary schools. 3 are middle high schools. And 2 are elementary middle schools. Exactly 2,000 students in total took the state math test at these schools, and not one could do math at grade level.
These kids can't do math. You're not preparing them to buy groceries. You're not preparing them to do accounting, to count their own money. You're not preparing them to read contracts and negotiate salaries.
We made the largest investment in public education by any governor in our state's history.
Governor Wes Moore, last week, in his first State of the State address, made his feelings about public education clear. It's one of his top priorities.
We can no longer separate our vision for economic prosperity from the duty to make Maryland's public schools the best in the nation.
After his State of the State address, Project Baltimore reached out to Moore's office, asking to speak with him about his plan to improve education. Before becoming governor, Moore lived in Baltimore. We wanted to ask him how he plans to help city students, especially those who attend these 23 schools. Governor Moore's office did not respond, but city schools did send us a statement with steps it's taking to improve math scores, including professional development for teachers, summer learning, and an extended learning period at the end of the day. The statement said, "We're confident these instructional strategies will help us regain the momentum and progress we experienced before the pandemic."
0%. What are you preparing these kids for? Are we expecting these kids to kill off themselves? I mean, we see the number of teen shootings happening just this year. What jobs are we preparing these kids for? That's the future.
Within the state testing data, we found 3 additional Baltimore City schools with 0 students proficient in math. One is a school for incarcerated youth. The other 2 are for students with disabilities. We did not include them in the list of 23 schools. It's also worth pointing out, we found an additional 20 schools that had just 1 or 2 students who were proficient in math. We have posted all of these schools on our website, foxbaltimore.com. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
While 23 Baltimore City schools had 0 students proficient in math, the city school CEO, Dr. Sonia Santelises, is being honored for her accomplishments.
In the Sunday edition of the Baltimore Sun, Dr. Santelises was named one of the 25 Black Marylanders to watch for 2023. On the front page of the article, Santelises was praised for her accomplishments over the past 6 years.
Now, the article pointed to a bright spot this fall when federal test scores known as NAEP showed city schools had performed better in several areas compared to the rest of Maryland. For example, 8th grade reading scores held steady from before the pandemic. But the article did not explain that according to NAEP, Baltimore is now 21 points below the national average for large cities. It's an all-time low for the city since national testing began 13 years ago. Dr. Santelises, who was quoted in the Baltimore Sun article, did not agree to an interview with Project Baltimore when we reported the NAEP scores in November.
That brings us to our question of the day. Do you trust Dr. Santelises to lead Baltimore City schools? 100 people have voted and 90% to 97% say no. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote. Click on the Project Baltimore tab to weigh in.
Anne Arundel County schools are moving into the next phase of redistricting. In a virtual update today, County Executive Stuart Pittman assured residents school leaders will let them know how redistricting affects them. The plan is broken into 2 phases, northern and southern tiers. Areas like Crownsville are now in the northern plan and will be the first to be dealt with next year. Areas including Crofton and Severna Park are in the southern tier. They will be restructured in 2026.
Just tell you that this is very difficult and heart-wrenching for some families because there will be children who will be changing schools. And that some people will be happy and a lot of people won't. So I just want to note that it's coming, note that it's necessary, note that we will stand behind our school board and our superintendent as they make very, very difficult decisions.
The first proposal will be released tomorrow, and families can weigh in through the end of May. We have a link at foxbaltimore.com so you can make your voice heard. Fox 45 has been investigating Safe Streets, the city's flagship program to fight against gun violence, for months.
After threatening legal action, the city of Baltimore handed over hundreds of pages detailing how the city spends money. But we still aren't being told the names of people who work for Safe Streets.
The city cites privacy concerns, even those workers who are supposed to be people in the community who are known to their neighbors. Joining us right now is attorney and former congressional candidate UFC Morgan. Ms. Morgan, you're the newly appointed spokesperson for Peace, a community group which is about to embark in a series of town halls to help city residents bring their concerns to City Hall. As you get ready for this experience, demanding transparency, can you tell us about your impression of this battle for information regarding Safe Streets?
Yes, and thank you both for having me on today. Look, this is the crux of why Peace exists. We are here to put power back into the residents' hands, to root out corruption in Baltimore city government. And one of the things that we have found in talking with community members and talking with people who live and work in the city, do a lot of this hard community work, is that they don't often get a lot of help from the city. There are millions of dollars that the city hands out in grants to certain organizations, Safe Streets being one of them, but certainly not to a lot of these grassroots organizations. And they're wondering, why are they being cut out of the process? And what we're finding through your investigation here at Fox 45 is that the Safe Streets program is completely shrouded in mystery.
And UFC, why do you think the mayor isn't releasing more information about Safe Streets? Why not be totally transparent?
Well, I think it's because there is no clear evidence that Safe Streets is actually a successful program. This is one that's been tried all over the country, and even in other countries like Trinidad and Tobago, in Chicago, for example, with Ceasefire before it was started here in Baltimore City. And there's never been any more concrete evidence other than these types of violence interruption programs, if anything, tend to displace crime so that you might keep one little neighborhood safer, but that crime ends up in a different neighborhood. Now, that's not the kind of evidence that I think you want in the public if you're going to spend millions and millions of taxpayer dollars. And let's be clear, that's what it is. This is taxpayer dollars that the city government is funneling through certain organizations. They've narrowed it down to 2, Catholic Charities and LifeBridge Health, which will be overseeing Safe Streets. But let's also be clear, this idea that you can't release the names of the people who work, I can go on the city government website right now, and I can tell you what everybody from a court clerk makes in Baltimore city government, because it's listed on there with their names, their titles, and their salaries. Safe Street should be no different.
Quickly, before you go, Ms. Morgan, so you're not a fan here. What do you think, in your opinion, might be a better way to help ensure stability in neighborhoods if you're not a fan of Safe Streets? And how would you do that and ensure, let's say, that the community's invested and behind whatever it is that action is?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, that it's more about where is the community invested. And look, I would love to see a program like Safe Streets Works, where you have members of the community who are the ones talking to and interrupting this violence before it occurs. The problem is that there is no real data that this has been successful. So why are we still pursuing efforts that aren't working? Look, Peace is going to be here to continue to empower the citizens of Baltimore, root out corruption wherever it exists, and makes Baltimore City a safer place for everyone.
All right. Thank you so much. We've been speaking with UFC Morgan. Ms. Morgan, thank you again. We'll see you shortly.
Thank you.
President Biden is expected to use his State of the Union address tonight to lay out his plan for the economy.
Well, the president is expected to talk about successes like low unemployment, but he's also facing some big hurdles as well. And the plan is expected to be in contrast to one Republicans are pushing.
Taylor Stewart went to the streets of Baltimore today asking residents about how their financial situations are faring under the Biden presidency. Taylor, what'd you find out?
Look, guys, this is 2 years into his first term, halfway done here. President Biden will address the nation today about the economy. But we spoke to folks here in Baltimore City and in the county that shared their situations. Take a listen.
We don't have money for this. We don't have money for that. That's all you hear. We don't have this. We don't have that. And I'm like, well, what do you have? So I am worried about the state of economy.
According to a recent Pew Research survey, only 21% of Americans read the current economic conditions as positive. So we went out to talk to people in Baltimore about it today.
I feel cautiously optimistic. I think that there's a prevailing notion that there is going to be a possible recession, but there's indicators otherwise. So, I mean, it could go either way. I think part of it is mentality.
White House officials say the president tonight is aiming to combat a widespread mentality of inflation fatigue, consistent across the country and throughout the city of Baltimore.
Spend more on food than I ever have.
For grad students like Brianna Enck.
Yeah, not able to save, all those different things. And then, like also with the thoughts of student loans and things like that starting back up.
Although inflation has started to cool after peaking at an alarming rate of 9.1% last summer, it still stands at 6%. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell saying Tuesday disinflation has begun, but expect it to be a long and slow process.
Is there anything that could do at the federal level for you right now that would give you any more confidence?
Lowering interest rates would be helpful.
And that's likely not on the table just yet. So why, post-pandemic with a 53-year low in unemployment, are people struggling to make ends meet? It's a question people are hoping the president has an answer to.
I'm hoping he'll say things are starting to turn for the better, but you have dim hopes. They're very dim, these are things we're hoping to hear, but let's be realistic.
For now, we're live in Baltimore. I'm Taylor Stewart, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Taylor. The president will address Congress tonight at 9 o'clock. You can watch that live at foxbaltimore.com. Harford County Executive Bob Casserly will also deliver his State of the County address tonight at 7 o'clock. You can also watch that live at foxbaltimore.com. More than 400 ready-to-eat food products affected in a contamination recall. More information on what products you need to look out for.
And it looks like we're going to have an easy commute home with temperatures falling from around 50 back into the 40s. I'll let you know when the next risk of some wet roads are around here and if we could still have some weekend snow. It's in my Weather Authority forecast. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and take a look at what we can expect as we work our way in through the next, several days. I think we're going to start off. Here we go. Let's pop that graphic up for you with some clouds and temperatures in the mid to upper 40s for the remainder of the afternoon. Won't fall off too much tonight, with winds out of the east and southeast keeping some of these clouds in and also keeping temperatures buoyed. And that's going to allow the temperatures really to spike for tomorrow. Wind chill now at 41 degrees, and temperatures today with that kind of easterly wind off the Atlantic as well as the Chesapeake Bay. Really kind of getting stifled a little bit in the low to mid 40s for most of us for much of the day. There's a couple of spots west away from the water around 50 right now, but temperatures are running about 5 to 10 degrees cooler than they were 24 hours ago. They're in the warmer numbers. Look at that, Oakland as well as Cumberland. That's into those warmer times that I was talking about, and it appears that we're going to get into that as well, especially tomorrow afternoon. You see there are these showers that are located in western New York and central and southwestern PA. Those are moving east, and we could get a little bit of that tonight, maybe a slim chance of a sprinkle or a spritz. And then there's more rain that kind of slinks all the way down into the Mississippi Valley. And as a weather maker, a cold front moves at us. Temperatures, in fact, will warm the next couple of days, probably into the 60s for tomorrow as well as maybe even Thursday and maybe even Friday near 60. But also we're going to gradually increase the chance of rain. Then that front rolls through and it will cool down as we head into this upcoming weekend. So temperatures in the 40s here in Baltimore as well as Cumberland up to Scranton right now. But you hop over into the warmer air. We're in the 60s in Charleston, and it looks like, again, we're going to start bumping that warmer air in, but it also gradually turns more unsettled, especially later in the day on Wednesday. And as we head into, actually, I should say later in the day, Thursday, and as we head into Friday, as that next weather maker moves in. Some extra clouds overnight tonight. I think temperature is going to, again, kind of buoy off here in the 40s. Overnight, there's that chance of a sprinkle through sunrise, and then that moves out. And as we head into tomorrow afternoon, nice looking day with some partial sunshine. High temperatures going to be the upper 50s to near 60. There are those showers I was talking about later Thursday, perhaps even bleeding into Friday. Looked like we're going to hold that in as some colder air moved in. You see that temperature down to 32 Saturday night. Well, now it looks like that may not happen. So I think we're going to delete the chance of snow out of the forecast primarily. There could be a spot shower of rain or maybe a flake here on Saturday. Then it's back above average Monday, Tuesday of next week.
Jonathan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, Baltimore leaders give millions of dollars to nonprofits hoping to clean up the city. The concerns from council members and a study on how those funds could be used. And a recall of more than 400 ready-to-eat food products for possible contamination. What products have been affected? The Food and Drug Administration has issued a recall of more than 400 ready-to-eat food products due to a possible listeria contamination. The recall affects products sold by Fresh Ideation Food Group from January 24th through the 30th across multiple states. Now, those products include ready-to-eat sandwiches, yogurt, salads, and wraps. You can check for a full list of the recall products on FDA.gov. If you're having any trouble falling asleep or even staying asleep, it's not you. Maybe it's where you sleep that could use some upgrading. Tom Rogers brings us the latest from Consumer Reports.
Consumer Reports surveyed more than 2,000 adults in the U.S., and 9 out of 10 said they had experienced at least one sleep challenge in the previous 12 months.
Getting a good night's rest is really about also minimizing the disturbances.
Set your thermostat to 65 degrees for the ideal temperature for sleeping.
Your core body temp cools down slightly as your body prepares for sleep.
Right bedding is also key. Choose sheets in breathable fabrics like 100% cotton or linen like this LL Bean cotton sheet set, which is earning a top scores for strength in Consumer Reports test. The quality of the air in your bedroom can also affect your sleep, especially if you have allergies or asthma. In Consumer Reports test, this Honeywell did an impressive job of removing dust, pollen, and smoke from the air. Keep out light, which can signal your body to wake up, without blackout shades or eye masks like Mzu eye mask, which is adjustable straps and was a Consumer Report favorite. Now, Consumer Report says even the best pillows in perfect conditions won't help if you're not sleeping on the right mattress. So if you're consistently waking up sore, tired, or even achy, you made other adjustments, it may be time to start looking for a new mattress. Tom Rogers, Fox 45 News.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5, a Baltimore resident is losing hope after she saw a teen's final moments. The latest on what we know about the killing of a 16-year-old. Also ahead, why was he let out on the streets? We look into the history of a man accused of raping 3 people in Towson last week. New concerns over the use of millions of dollars in Baltimore, the issues some have with the program designed to help clean up the city.
Police still searching for the suspect in the deadly shooting of a Baltimore teen over the weekend, hearing from a neighbor who says they saw the victim's final moments.
Why was the suspect allowed out on the streets? We press leaders for answers after an horrific crime shocks Baltimore County.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
And Fox 45 News continuing to follow some breaking news out of Owings Mills, where police have found human remains. The investigation is happening steps away from Stevenson University in Baltimore County. The remains were found yesterday, but the police department has just notified us now. Right now, authorities have not identified the person found. If you have any information, you are asked to call police.
Baltimore City reaches an agreement with BGE over the city's 700-mile underground conduit system. Under the agreement, BGE must commit more than $130 million toward improvements. The current agreement had been an annual fee of about $28 million.
And while the city retains full ownership, BGE will get blanket and expedited permitting for its underground work. Some city council members want an investigation to determine who stands to benefit the most out of this. Jeff Abel will have much more in a live report at the bottom of the hour.
We're following three big stories tonight. In Baltimore County, a horrifying crime has the community on edge. Fox 45 News presses leaders on why a suspect is accused of raping three people at gunpoint and was allowed to be out on the streets.
In the city, a neighbor says she witnessed a 16-year-old lose his life, the latest on the tragic death of a Northeast Baltimore teenager. But first, Mayor Scott is giving nearly $15 million to nonprofits around the city to help clean up the trash in Baltimore. Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala.
I'm Kai Jackson. Some city council members aren't happy about the grants, since the city has an agency dedicated to picking up trash.
Yeah, that's DPW. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live. Mackenzie, this initiative is moving forward despite the concerns.
Yeah, Mary Kai, more money going to these nonprofits, and it seems to be a pattern for the city of Baltimore, but it's raising concerns and questions about transparency and accountability for all this cash. Tucked in a neighborhood off Green Spring Avenue, trash lines the streets.
They lazy.
Denise Johnson lives in the area and is disgusted with the level of trash in her own community. Piled up cans, black trash bags on the curb, and dumping, and clearly marked no dumping areas.
Ooh, I can't even describe it, but it's just unbelievable.
Good afternoon, everybody.
When word that 6 nonprofits would be getting money from the city to help clean up Baltimore reached Johnson.
When I heard that on the news this morning, I was so overwhelmed.
But across town, not everyone is thrilled.
Further shows how out of touch some decision makers are when it comes to the needs and infrastructure needs in the city.
Councilman Isaac Yitzi Schleifer says Mayor Brandon Scott should have given the Department of Public Works the $14.7 million instead of giving it to the 6 nonprofits to work in 33 low-income communities.
Why in the world would, the administration give $15 million towards privatization of community groups to perform these functions and to hire people when that's exactly what we're trying to do?
DPW says the agency is struggling to hire staff and is working with inadequate equipment, which is why Councilman Schleifer says the money should be going to DPW.
It's a slap in the face to our workers when they see these private entities getting shiny new equipment when they're in trucks that don't have air conditioning. They're using equipment that barely works.
This is really a responsibility of the city.
David Williams, president of the Taxpayers Protection Alliance, says the money should come with requirements, proving these nonprofits are doing their jobs.
How's it going to be spent? And what kind of mechanisms are in place to monitor the spending of the money through the nonprofits? So the accountability really is the key issue. If progress isn't being made, that the nonprofit is cut off from any future funding and potentially claw back any money that has been given to them if they don't fulfill that mission.
The Clean Core money, not the first time the city's given millions to nonprofits. According to OpenTheBooks.com, in 2021, the Family League of Baltimore City given more than $14.5 million by Baltimore. Associated Black Charities given more than $13.7 million. And George Soros' nonprofit, Open Society Institute Baltimore, getting $6 million from the city. Fox 45 News sending Mayor Brandon Scott and his office questions about the decision, asking what accountability measures will be put in place to help the city track the money once it's given to these organizations. Why is the city giving almost $15 million to organizations when DPW could use the money to do the same work? How are these organizations selected? The mayor and his team ignoring the questions. One of the nonprofits, Park Heights Renaissance, the same one that used to run a Safe Streets site. We've gone to that location, but no one answering the door. The organization will run cleanups in the same neighborhood where Denise Johnson lives, who says the nonprofits should have the chance to clean up the city, because she says right now, DPW isn't doing a great job.
Look at it now. They're not really doing nothing, really.
Now, right now, the city of Baltimore says the money for the Clean Core initiative will last for the next 2 years. Live in the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Tonight, police are looking for the person responsible for shooting and killing a 16-year-old boy in Northeast Baltimore on Sunday. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor went back to the crime scene today, and she spoke with a neighbor who says she watched that tragedy take place firsthand. A really traumatizing event for her, Rebecca.
Yeah, Kai, on top of that, it's just the latest of a string of young lives that have been lost in the streets of Baltimore so far this year. Tonight, I'm speaking with this woman who says she heard the gunshots and then watched as a 16-year-old took his final breaths at her feet.
What was going through your head?
I thought it was just normal because you hear them all the time.
Gunshots?
Yes, ma'am.
That's normal.
Yes, ma'am.
What would terrify some has this Northeast Baltimore woman feeling numb.
It is getting worse, but what can you do? You can't take their guns away because they still gonna get them back. So I really don't know what to do no more.
Helpless and losing hope. She doesn't want her face shown, but says Sunday night she listened as 5 shots rang out just steps from her front door. When she ran outside, she says 16-year-old Andre Moreno was on the sidewalk, covered in blood and barely clinging to life.
And you can tell that he wasn't breathing after that. He was walking home. He was a nice boy. He didn't bother nobody. He didn't say nothing to nobody. I don't understand what happened, really.
Baltimore City Schools confirming Moreno was a student at Edmondson Westside High. It's the same school where 5 other students were shot just blocks from campus last month. Among them, 16-year-old Deontay Dorsey, also losing his life.
All they did was left out of their house this morning to attend school, and they're not going to return home.
The community's concerns and calls for change only growing louder amid a string of young lives lost. Since the start of the year, at least 4 juveniles shot and killed in Baltimore, and yet only 1 arrest has been made, leaving several killers still on the streets and residents afraid the only way to escape the violence is to escape the city entirely.
I'm leaving. I'm not willing to sacrifice the life of one of my children for Baltimore City.
And to anyone with any information into these cases is asked to call police. And if you'd like to remain anonymous, you can always call Crime Stoppers. Reporting live in Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. For months now, Fox 45 News has been demanding accountability and answers as we see more young people become either victims or suspects in crimes. The situation is dire in Baltimore. This year alone, at least 15 young people have been shot. Now, youth violence isn't just an issue in Baltimore. Yesterday, 5 teens in Annapolis were arrested after a traffic stop for having guns and drugs, according to police. Police say it happened near Mead Village Road and Mead Village Circle. The suspects are accused of having 3 semi-automatic handguns, 2 pounds of marijuana, and more than $1,800 in cash. 2 juveniles, a 17-year-old and 15-year-old, were arrested along with 3 adults.
We are learning more tonight about the suspect arrested for raping 3 people at gunpoint in Towson last week. It is a crime that shocked the community, left so many questioning why the suspect was on the streets of Baltimore County. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker joins us live in Towson with what we are learning. Maxine?
Well, Mary, tonight we are digging deeper into Quancy Davis' criminal history and why he spent just a few days behind bars after he was arrested for having a stolen gun from Baltimore City. This is the man, 28-year-old Quancy Davis, who police say raped 3 victims in the heart of Towson Thursday.
This is a heinous crime. It's atrocious. As a father, I'm disgusted by what happened.
Police say Davis ordered them onto their knees in an alley and threatened to kill them before raping all 3 of them at gunpoint. Police say Davis was prohibited from even being able to possess a firearm after he was arrested in 2021 in Anne Arundel County. According to the police report, Davis was pulled over for speeding when police found he had an active warrant in Baltimore City for driving on a suspended license and arrested him. Police discovered a gun in his pocket and another loaded gun in his passenger seat, which they found was stolen from Baltimore City, where court documents say Davis currently resides. Davis was sentenced to 3 years with all but just 10 days suspended, putting him back out on the streets in less than 2 weeks. The Anne Arundel County State's Attorney's Office why he was given a sentence of 10 days and if it was fair. A spokesperson tells us in part the sentencing guidelines recommended somewhere between straight probation, no jail time, to 2 years in prison. The state was asking for a number of years in prison with all but 30 days suspended. Ultimately, it was up to Judge Michael Wachs, who handed down the 10-day sentence.
If you commit a crime in Baltimore County, in Towson, or anywhere, we're going to find you, we're going to arrest you, and we're going to hold you fully accountable in partnership with State's Attorney Schellenberger.
Baltimore County Executive Johnny Olszewski says Davis will be held accountable, but we asked how he can assure residents feel safe after several incidents in Towson in recent months, including the January arrests of several juveniles after a disturbance near the Towson Circle. Olszewski says residents shouldn't worry.
I think it also presents a false narrative about the safety of Towson and Baltimore County. Looking at our crime statistics, crime has been persistently flat or down in most cases. That's true also in Towson. So we want to remind folks that Towson and all of Baltimore County is a very safe place to live, work, and raise a family.
Meanwhile, in Annapolis, lawmakers are working to make sure those who commit crimes like Davis allegedly did are held accountable. Ivan Bates is pushing legislation to even the sentence maximum for misdemeanor gun offenses to 5 years for all offenders 18 and over. But it would still be up to the judges to hand down those sentences. And Republican lawmakers are also planning legislation targeting repeat violent offenders. It's likely the proposal will look similar to what former Governor Larry Hogan pushed for years with the Violent Firearms Offender Act. Governor Wes Moore is now pledging to get the work done.
The ability to get and keep violent offenders off of our streets, the ability to get and keep these illegal guns out of our neighborhoods is something that has to be done cooperatively.
Well, Davis is being held without bond tonight. A preliminary hearing is set for March 3rd here in Towson. Reporting live in Towson, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Maxine. Have things improved for you in the past 2 years? We hear from Baltimore residents about their concerns before the president's State of the Union address tonight.
Legal gun owners could face new restrictions. The battle over a bill limiting where you can carry a firearm.
The latest developments in the tragic D.C. Metro shooting with the suspect in court today.
And our latest weather maker providing for some clouds through this evening. Could even see a sprinkle or two with temperatures falling into the 40s. I'm going to let you know, though, when we could have highs well into the 60s around here. And also, if there's any chance of snow in our forecast, in my Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 News, winner of 17 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
The suspect in the D.C. Metro shooting is now being held without bond. A judge says the suspect should be kept in custody because of probable cause of first-degree murder. 31-year-old Isaiah Trotman is charged with the shooting 3 people at the Potomac Avenue Metro station in D.C. last Wednesday. One of those victims was a transit authority employee who reportedly was trying to protect someone else from being shot and was killed. Police said they are working to determine a motive.
A member of President Biden's cabinet reportedly stepping down. Labor Secretary Marty Walsh is planning to become the head of the NHL's Players Association. Walsh has had a large role in labor negotiations under President Biden. His departure would be a first from Biden's cabinet. The administration is unlikely to formally announce it until after the State of the Union address tonight.
New York Congressman George Santos is facing an investigation from the House Ethics Committee. Santos has stepped down from his committee assignments after it came to light that he lied about his past and qualifications to voters. Speaker Kevin McCarthy acknowledged the investigation could lead to his expulsion from the House.
Ethics is moving through, and if ethics finds something, we'll take action. Right now, we're not allowing him to be on committees from the standpoint of the questions that have arisen.
Shortly after he won his seat, lies regarding his religion, his work experience, and concerns over his campaign finances came to light. The revelations led to calls for his resignation from Republican and Democratic members of the House.
Some on Capitol Hill say it is time for term limits on representatives. National correspondent Christine Frizzell brings us the latest.
Let me put it this way.
They are some of the most powerful lawmakers on Capitol Hill, and their combined age, 323 years, is not the problem.
We've been here longer.
Their combined years of service, 160 years, is, for some, calling for change.
Enmeshed in backroom deals and broken promises, our capital has too often become a political playground for the powerful and the well-connected.
For years, Senator Ted Cruz has been calling for term limits. Now he, along with Congressman Ralph Norman, has proposed a constitutional amendment to limit the number of terms members of Congress may serve. 3 two-year terms for members of the House and 2 six-year terms for the Senate, though Cruz himself is currently running for a 3rd term.
I've introduced a constitutional amendment to put that into the Constitution.
But you're still running.
And if and when it passes, I will happily comply. I've never said I'm going to unilaterally comply.
Supporters say it's long overdue, despite a similar bill supported by the public failing back in 1995.
I support term limits. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't participate. The majority of folks just don't participate in those critical midterm elections and primaries.
Many Democrats, though, oppose the plan. They say for one simple reason: experience matters.
I've gone through the economic collapse of 2008. So as people are talking about recession now, many of us are talking about what we did and to get out of it.
Government is very complex. The only people that know what's going on under term limits are the lobbyists and your paid staff.
Why do you think term limits, though, is so popular with voters?
Because it rings well, throw the bums out.
Others say term limits already exist in a sense, allowing voters to decide. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzell.
All right, taking a look outside right now. It's a little bit cooler than yesterday. Temperatures in the mid to upper 40s. We're at 44 right now. Winds out of the east-southeast at 8 miles an hour, bringing some clouds, a little bit of haze. It's kind of a more marine direction of air instead of the westerly winds that we had yesterday that helped bump those temperatures into the low to mid 50s. Wind chill now at 40, so you'll need a jacket on the PM commute home. Temperatures all across the board could be a lot worse this time of year. But we're at 42 here at Elkton, 44 Baltimore. We're near 50 Columbia, Gaithersburg, Frederick, and also at Laurel. Temperatures, again, they're running, say about 5 degrees below where they were yesterday afternoon at the same time. But look at that warmth out west. Here it comes. Looks like we're going to be seeing some of that as we work into the next couple of days. Now, Beyond all of that, things are starting to get more unsettled. You see, from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, all the way into central New York, there's a band of showers. Maybe a couple of these is kind of light shower or sprinkle form, impacting us tonight into the wee hours of tomorrow morning as a cold front gradually approaches. But what you'll notice most, actually, is the temperatures warm up ahead of this front as it makes a very slow move to the east. And we also stay a little more unsettled. There could be some of these showers that bleed in from time to time, not only for Thursday, but also maybe a slim chance of a shower on Friday. And then the weekend, we have to watch a little bit closer. Temperatures in the 40s, 30s, basically from Maryland northbound. We're in the 40s here in Baltimore. There's a warmth just down to our south, a stone's throw away. And again, as that warmth bumps up with the jet stream, that's these lines that you see here with the arrows, as that bumps up, we're also going to get some moisture involved with the next weather maker. So Thursday, some spot showers, and potentially also on Friday, an isolated shower. Then some colder air works in. We'll just have to see how much moisture hangs back and if we get a little coastal system that develops within some of that colder air. And that'll judge and give us big differences in our weekend forecast depending on what happens. So future scan overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning. There's that slim risk of a shower here or there all the way through about 3:45, through about 5:45, 6 a.m. Then that's out of here. Skies clear up a little bit tomorrow. Partial sun. Actually, a really nice looking day. High temperatures well into the 50s. Could even touch about 60 degrees. Then on Thursday, some PM showers high near 60. Also near 60 on Friday with a few showers. There's that colder air I was talking about. If this moisture can hang in long enough with a little coastal system that looks like it develops down towards the Carolinas, if that gets pushed to the north, well, this could be a much more interesting forecast Saturday night into Sunday. And the reason I'm talking about it now is because the latest GFS or American computer model run just came in, and it actually does put some snow maybe back here Saturday night into Sunday. This morning's run did not have that. And then we're back in the 50s until early next week.
Jonathan, thank you. The State of the Union just hours away, talking with a Maryland representative about what they hope to hear from the president. And parts of what U.S. officials say was a Chinese spy balloon recovered from the Atlantic Ocean. The latest security concerns on Capitol Hill after the incident. The Navy releasing photos showing the recovery of the Chinese spy balloon shot down over the Atlantic. These images, soldiers pulling the balloon from the water off the coast of South Carolina. The balloon was able to cross the continental U.S. before the Air Force shot it down on Sunday. The debris was taken to the FBI's facility in Quantico, Virginia, for analysis. Now, in the wake of the balloon traveling across the United States, the House of Representatives holding a meeting this the threat China poses to our country. Republicans are criticizing the White House for allowing the balloon to spend days flying over the country. The balloon passed over Montana and the Midwest before getting shot down over the sea off the coast of South Carolina. Some representatives frustrated the balloon was allowed to travel over multiple military sites.
The fact that someone gave the president the advice not to shoot it down before it traversed over what appears to be 21 military installations is indefensible.
The president is pushing back on those criticisms, though, saying he acted as quickly as he could to address the threat.
It was always my position. Once it came over into the United States from Canada, I told the Defense Department I wanted to shoot it down as soon as it was appropriate.
Members of the House Armed Services Committee saying this morning China is the most serious national security threat the country has faced in 30 years. Well, a battle in Annapolis over a bill aimed at restricting legal gun owners, hearing from Republicans and Democrats on where they stand on the issue. And tomorrow, Anne Arundel County School redistricting proposal gets released. The promises from the county executive today for a transparent process. President Biden set to deliver his 2023 State of the Union address tonight. Maryland's District Representative Andy Harris discusses what he expects the president to address.
Back to breaking news right now. Baltimore City reaches an agreement with BGE over the city's 700-mile underground conduit system.
That's right. Our Jeff Abel just spoke with Mayor Scott about the details of this agreement, even as city council members are raising concern. Jeff?
That's right. Just 2 days before the city council was set to investigate this agreement, the mayor issues a statement today saying the deal is done. Mayor Brandon Scott a few moments ago announced he had reached an agreement with BG&E, which calls for the utility to make $130 million of improvements to the conduit system. In exchange, the city would drastically reduce the annual occupancy BG&E fee it pays to the system each year. In fact, here's how the mayor addressed the deal just moments ago.
Well, you know I'm not going to talk about a deal that hasn't been approved. We know it's a good deal for the city.
Doctors are bombarded with a ton of messages. One California hospital reporting over 3 million in 1 year.
I understand that doctors are burnt out. I understand that some of these messages are taking a long time, but shoving this burden onto patients, many of whom can ill afford it, especially somebody who's elderly and doesn't have a lot of money, like my mother, and millions of other Americans, it's not fair and it's not right.
An informal survey by the New York Times found that nearly a dozen of the nation's largest hospital systems said they charged fees for some of their providers' emails to patients or have started pilot programs. In Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
Well, we expect an update Friday. In the federal trial of former City States Attorney Marilyn Mosby. We could learn new dates for the trial moving forward. Right now, Marilyn Mosby has been appointed a federal public defender after all 6 of her attorneys withdrew from the case. Mosby had been declared indigent. A year ago, federal prosecutors charged Mosby with perjury and making false mortgage applications. It's related to her purchase of 2 vacation homes in Florida. Well, rescue efforts underway to assist in the aftermath of the devastating earthquakes that hit Turkey and Syria, how the U.S. is planning to help in that recovery. And a controlled explosion could limit the damage, but locals still can't head home. The latest on the train derailment at the Ohio-Pennsylvania border.
And if you're going to be taking a walk this evening, do expect some clouds, but also temperatures fairly mild for this time of year, still in the mid to upper 40s all the way through about 10, 11 o'clock tonight. There could be a sprinkle late. I'm going to let you know we could have some rain, and when new computer models say we could have some snow around here too. It's in my Weather Authority forecast.